Before we start today's show, let's all hop into the deal zone. Daryl did it, and he brought James Harden to the Philadelphia 76ers. So who do you think won this trade? Get into the comment section right now. Type PHI for Philly, BKN for Brooklyn. Get those votes in, and let's talk some Sixers basketball right now. Welcome in to Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. I'm your host, Chase Sr. Daryl Morey pulled the trigger. He waited all this time to bring James Harden, his son, to Philadelphia, and he did the deal, sending away big baby Ben Simmons to Brooklyn in a deal that could really change the course of the Philadelphia 76ers season and certainly sent ripple effects across the entire NBA. Now, James Harden has been out the last couple of games with that hamstring injury. The big question, when are we going to see him rock that number 1 Sixers jersey and join the Philadelphia 76ers? Well, according to Kyle Neubeck of Philadelphia Voice, it's not going to happen for at least the next couple of games, at least this weekend. Neubeck on Philly Voice saying this: a team official confirmed to Philly Voice on Friday morning that Harden was not expected to be available to play for the Sixers this weekend, with Philadelphia preparing for a Friday-Saturday back-to-back against the Oklahoma City Thunder and the upstart Cleveland Cavaliers. Harden is expected to arrive in the arena at some point this weekend, and at that point will undergo evaluation from the Sixers health and performance staff. Now, the Sixers are embarking on a pretty interesting portion of their schedule. Of course, they've been one of the best teams in the NBA in terms of wins and losses since Christmas, led by Joel Embiid, who's playing MVP caliber basketball, but some really good teams over the next 5. Thunder tonight on Friday as we record this. Saturday night against the Cleveland Cavaliers, a team that Philadelphia has been jockeying with in the Eastern Conference standings. The Boston Celtics are red hot, having won 8 games in a row. You go to Milwaukee, who in my opinion, the number 1 team in the East, led by Giannis coming off that NBA championship, and then a rematch from that epic overtime game a couple weeks ago against the Minnesota Timberwolves. Now, there's been so much conversation as to who won the trade, who lost the trade, Philly, Brooklyn. I think the Sixers won the deal for a couple of reasons. By bringing in James Harden, you give Embiid the best player he's ever played alongside. James Harden is the better player than Jimmy Butler. There's no question about that. And of course, he's better than Ben Simmons. And in bringing James Harden down I-95 South, you're able to maximize Embiid's prime when this year he's been the number 1 MVP candidate. Anytime also you have 2 elite players, 2 top 15 players, your chances of winning an NBA championship just improve drastically. So by bringing in James Harden, you improve your title chances, even if he's about 80% of the Houston Rockets' James Harden. You also don't include 2 of the young key pieces on this roster in the deal in Tyrese Maxey and Matisse Thybulle. So let's say it doesn't work out, at least you still have 2 building blocks in Maxey and Thybulle on top of having Embiid barring his health. And Ben Simmons wasn't returning anyway. There was no way with this contentious relationship he was actually going to play games again for the Philadelphia 76ers. So Daryl Morey played his cards right. He waited until the last second. He ended up, in my opinion, getting the leverage on Brooklyn and Sean Marks, made the trade for Harden, and in doing so, got the best player in the deal. Now, how does Harden fit with Embiid? Embiid has never really played with a ball-dominant player to the likes of James Harden. He's really thrived with a player like Jimmy Butler and other shooters like J.J. Redick and Seth Curry when they come around those curl screens and are able to have that quick release and let it rip from deep. And while Harden has played with a big like Clint Capella, Joel Embiid is not a lob threat who dashes to the cup like a Clint Capella. So the mixing and matching of Harden and Embiid, there's going to be a feeling out process over the next couple of games and the first few games that they do play. But if Harden is able to play like he played in the first half of last year with Brooklyn and play like he did with the Houston Rockets, and Embiid just continues to do his thing, the dominant menace that he is, playing physically like Shaq with finesse like Hakeem Olajuwon, this on-court pairing is going to be very, very good, very, very lethal, and already it's one of the best 1-2 punches in the NBA. Now make sure you subscribe to Philadelphia 76ers Now by Chat Sports. When this trade happened yesterday. We were live in front of our audience of 280,000 subscribers on our main Chat Sports YouTube channel. We cooked up the video really quickly and put it on Philadelphia 76ers Now. Even though the trade rumors are dying down, our coverage only beginning, and it's getting even more exciting with James Harden now in the mix. So let's get the 4K subs as soon as possible. Hit that red subscribe button down below. And oh yeah, I hail from the Philadelphia area, and I absolutely love my Philly homies. Now, even though I think the Sixers won the trade, I still have concerns about it. James Harden's numbers this year are certainly down, as evidenced by the figures that we just showed you. From 2009 to 2020, he was one of the most durable players in the NBA. That entire time frame, he only missed 43 games. Last 2 years, though, he's dealt with some lingering hamstring issues and didn't come to camp both years, in my opinion, in the peakest form of shape. The contract could also be a problem. James Harden is in his early 30s. There's been some concerns and some indications that his play is starting to decline just a little bit. He's never been the most explosive athlete, so really he's had to rely on the craftiness to his game. So even if he loses a half step, that can affect him on the offensive end of the floor. Rule changes too stray away from the finesse aspect of his game. So if he signs a monster deal and he's making $40-50 million when he's in his mid to late 30s, that can be very prohibitive for this team. But Daryl Morey is a very smart NBA executive. He's also had playoff no-shows. So one of my worst fears is that he crumbles in the playoffs, playing for a coach in Doc Rivers who's blown a bunch of big games in the playoffs, especially multiple 3-1 leads. And let's say that the Sixers play the Nets in the playoffs. He has to go up against a very good defender in Ben Simmons. Ben Simmons motivated, puts the clamps on Harden. That's one of my worst nightmares. Also, losing Curry in the deal hurts. The chemistry between him and Embiid was very special. And anytime you lose a guy who shoots north of 40% from distance, it's going to hurt you. And Seth Curry, while he's awful defensively and a liability, especially in the playoffs on that end of the floor, can really stroke it from beyond the arc. And now you have some concerns about the depth behind Embiid because you lose Andre Drummond in this deal. So those are some of the concerns that I have with this trade. I want to go back to the original point that I had made just a little while ago. Embiid has never had a player like this. So he's playing at an MVP level. You're not sure how long this is going to last because, let's be real, he has a long injury history. But when you pair up Embiid with James Harden, this really has the potential to be a dominant two-man force. And he's never played with a player like this. So I'm very, very excited about that. And on the Brooklyn Nets side, Kevin Durant is the best player in the world, in my opinion, when he's healthy. Obviously, now he's dealing with an injury. But I think KD is going to be able to elevate Ben Simmons. Simmons fits on the Nets because he's not going to be asked to do much offensively, really just be a side piece to KD and Kyrie. And I'm thinking that Ben Simmons has the ability to be KD's Draymond Green. And when KD was playing with Draymond Green on both ends of the floor, they were very, very good together. And Ben Simmons can really thrive in that type of role where he doesn't have the pressure to do much offensively, doesn't have to shoot the basketball, and everybody isn't just breathing down his neck to do more offensively like they were doing with Philadelphia. Do you think the Harden experiment will work? It's a simple question, but it's somewhat of a difficult answer. Why for yes and for no? Once again, be honest with me and get those comments in the comment section down below. Also, James Harden #1 jerseys are available right now thanks to our friends at Fanatics. Michael Rubin got these on the website very, very quickly. Head to chatsports.com/Harden, and these Harden jerseys available for only $75. He was traded about 24 hours ago from this recording. Chatsports.com/Harden. Get your Harden jerseys now. Get decked out with some Sixers swag. I'll put that link in the comments section as well as a description. This is somewhat of a joke for me, and we knew this was coming. Ben Simmons, just a total fraud. Adrian Wojnarowski saying this. Ben Simmons has already talked to Kevin Durant, Sean Marks, and the crew with Brooklyn. Rich Paul tells ESPN Simmons is eager to join the Nets and ramp up for a return to play this season. Paul says, we've got a lot of work to do to get him back to play, but it's a great step in the right direction. And he's also, Ben Simmons, going to join the Brooklyn Nets on their next road trip. This is weak sauce. Ben Simmons hasn't played this year because he's blamed him not being able to play on his mental health issues. But in the meantime, Rich Paul, Clutch Sports, they've been telling other teams that were interested in acquiring him that Ben Simmons would be able to play at some point. This is really, for Ben Simmons, he's just mocking everybody else that's actually dealing with mental health issues. And over time, this has obviously become a pertinent issue in America, an issue that a lot of people are starting to take a lot more seriously. And Ben Simmons, it wasn't an issue for him. He used it as an excuse because he couldn't deal with the pressure cooker of Philadelphia because of his lack of accountability and owning up to the mistakes and him not owning up to the fact that he didn't put the necessary work in to improve his game. So do you think Ben Simmons will play at the Wells Fargo Center when the Nets come to South Philly on the 10th of March? Type P for play, type S for soft. It would not surprise me one iota if Simmons sits that game out, because the Wendy's Frosty machines, they're going to be on and popping in hopes that he's going to miss 2 consecutive free throws, and we know that Ben Simmons isn't built to deal with the pressure, as evidenced by how he dealt with this entire situation over the last several months. As for the fallout between James Harden and Kyrie, a little bit of beef, according to The Athletic. Nets were in Cleveland January 17th in their locker room before the game. Kyrie Irving lit ablaze some sage, a Native American ritual Irving has embraced to cleanse negative energy. Irving doesn't do this before every game, but he apparently still feels haunted by parts of his past on the Cavs, so he lit his torch. Harden, according to sources, he was in the locker room when it happened, was seated in front of his locker, watching Irving, and looked at Kyrie like he had 3 heads. Definitely a weird vibe between them, one source said. You could tell Harden was annoyed and Kyrie wasn't feeling James. And Kyrie wanted James Harden to get traded away. Pivoting back to Kevin Durant, all-time bad business move for KD. He left the dynastic Golden State Warriors, led by Seth Curry, the most selfless superstar that we've ever really seen in the history of the NBA, Klay Thompson, Draymond Green, a great general manager in Bob Myers, as well as a very good coach in Steve Kerr. They're excellent at player development. They won 3 championships over the span of 5 years. KD was a part of a couple of those. And he left the Warriors for Brooklyn, not the New York Knicks. And he went to Brooklyn to team up with Kyrie Irving, who wanted out of Cleveland because he didn't want to be in the shadow of LeBron James, who in my opinion is the second best player in NBA history. He went to Boston, was a flame out there, infamous stories about how he didn't get along with anybody in that locker room, and now he's never available to play. He's a flat earther, conspiracy theorist, and you never know what the hell is going on inside Kyrie Irving's mind, and KD, one of the most gifted basketball players of all time, left this stability and the championship-level Golden State Warriors to go to the Brooklyn Nets, a transplant city, way overpriced with no real fan base, to team up with Kyrie Irving. All-time bad business move by Kevin Durant. And if Patrick Mahomes were to do the same thing, if LeBron were to do the same thing, we'd rip him. That's part of being a superstar. We know KD sometimes is as soft as charming, and he'd probably be butthurt by those comments that I just made. Make sure you give me a follow. I'm kidding. On Twitter and Instagram, at Chase_Senior. Love interacting with all the Philadelphia homies. Talking Sixers basketball here at Chat Sports. Cover the NFL, cover the NBA, college football. You have a question about sports, you have a question about life, be sure to hit me up at Chase_Senior. Thanks for watching today's show, and hit that red subscribe button.